All right, everybody, this is going to be a fun one, and that is we're going to create some abstract art using multiple clipping masks. So we can do something like starting with a basic image like this, maybe still life, and convert it to something that looks like this. But what about portraits? Well, we can do a portrait that looks like that, and we can also do landscape like this, or really any category of photography you want to get into. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves creatively out of the box. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a long video, so just be prepared for that. But I've got to make sure that when I do this artifact, and by the way, I'm going to build one from scratch, but I'm also going to show you 3 other ones I built, pre-built, and we'll dissect those, especially when it comes to landscape. But I got to make sure we understand the rules of a couple tools, because I do have a lot of beginners here, and I don't want to assume that we know this. So let's dive right into Photoshop. Let's take a look at those tools, and then I'm going to build that project for you using clipping masks as our foundation. Okay, let's get started on this. All right, so once again, it's really important that we know a couple tools here. And again, I don't want to assume that we know this. So one is the magic wand, and then the other one is posterize. So I put this image together here in Photoshop, and if I grab a feature here in our toolbar, this is our magic wand, and when you click on this, it changes your option bar, and this is your default setting. It's set to point sample. Let's leave that alone. Tolerance is 32. I'll talk about the importance of that and the importance of changing that a little bit later. And then it's set to contiguous right there. What does this mean? Well, if I grab the magic wand and I click in this black area, when I click down with my index finger on my mouse, it's sampling the black and it's adding 32, deducting 32, and it's going to select any range of black that falls in that, say, tonal range, and it selects that bar right there. But notice it did not select this one down here. And the reason is because we have something called contiguous selected. By default, that means the pixels have got to be touching each other. So I'm going to deselect this, Control D, Command D on a Mac to deselect that. Now, if I deselect contiguous, now when I select this, it's going to look anywhere in that image. And when I click down on the mouse, it's selected both areas because, again, it's falling in that range. So let me deselect that. If I select this gray area and click down once, well, it just found that one bar. It didn't select the other bars because it's out of its range. If I deselect that and I change my tolerance to 100 as an example right there, okay, I'm telling it to pick a different range. So when I click here, and I sample that spot, it picks up that bar there, this bar there, and that color gray bar right there because I increase the tolerance. So I'm going to deselect that. When I use this tool, I'm going to drop the tolerance down to 6, and it's going to make it really tight. So before I use the tool, I'm going to go right here in the upper left-hand corner, right mouse click, and I'm just going to reset the tool. That's back to the default setting, like if you opened this up the first time to use it, and I'll change those settings a little bit later. But I needed you to see how that tool works. The other tool that I'm going to use to work with the, again, clipping masks, or multiple clipping masks, and that is a feature under the image drop-down menu here, under adjustment, and it's called posterize. Now the way posterize works, let me select that. If I move the slider all the way to the left, you'll see the value 2 there. That's as low as you can go, which means it just gives me 2 levels of values, white and black, based on that image. And again, this will make more sense when I work on the project. If I change that value to 3, like I did there, now look what I have, black, I got white, and I've got gray. But if I change that to 4, it's looking at that image and saying, oh, we see 4 variances there. We got black, we got white, we got darker gray, let's say, and a lighter gray. So it broke it up into 4 categories rather than, say, 2. Okay, so I need you to see this. This will make more sense as I work on the project. All right, so are we ready? Let's get started on the first project. All right, now before I start the project, I want to get all organized. And again, this will make more sense as I build this project, but let's look at Photoshop here. And I'm just going to double click on my workspace as I always do to get the open dialog box. I'm going to navigate to where I have the assets for this project. This is the image I'm going to work with. Later, I will show you 3 other projects that I did, and we'll break it down, especially landscape, because my approach is a little bit different than landscape, but we'll wait till we get to that point a little bit later. But this is where I have 5 textures, and I labeled it or renamed them. And again, this will make more sense a little bit later, but I named one background. I made another one here called black. I named one called dark gray, light gray, and white. And again, this will all make sense. I got to keep things simple for me and to stay organized. So let's open up the image we're going to work with, and that'll be that still life right there. And again, this is called prepping your image. And I'm just going to play this. You don't have to do what I'm going to share with you here, but I'm going to grab the crop tool. I just don't like the composition there. So C for crop, or just, again, grab the crop tool here. And I'm just going to, this is a 4x5. Yeah, I'll keep it at 4x5. I'm going to resize this a bit. And I think what I want to do on this one is I'm going to chop off the bottom of the vase a little bit right there for this composition right there. And then I'll accept that right there. So again, this is just called prepping the image. If you don't feel the image is exposed properly, go in there and make your adjustments. Whatever you want to do to modify the adjustment of that image. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab any selection tool. So I'll just grab the lasso tool here. The reason I want to grab a selection tool, I want it to activate my contextual taskbar, which is right here. Now, I have mine anchored up there, but if you don't have yours, it's window drop-down menu. Come all the way down to the bottom, you'll find the contextual taskbar. And again, usually it's floating around your screen. I just click and drag mine up to the very top over here by this left side. And then you're going to see a set of 3 dots right there. If you click on this, I have it pinned to that position. So it should lock it right there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just choose Select Subject and let it do its thing. Okay, now they have that selected. I don't know why it jumps my contextual taskbar down there once in a while. I have no idea why that happens, but let's move that up there. Control-J, Command-J on a Mac to duplicate that. See, it did it again. This is called, let me pin it. It's something that's goofy, things like that once in a while. It's called a son of a glitch in the software. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, and again, this is totally optional. This is still just, say, tweaking my image a bit. I might want to go to, I don't know, just filter drop-down menu. I'm going to go to sharpen here, and I'm going to choose unsharp mask, and I'm really going to crank it up a bit. Because again, this is abstract artwork, so I'm not worried about it not looking natural. And then click on OK right there. And then, I don't know, filter, drop-down menu. Let's go to stylize. Oil paint I use a lot of times to smooth out an image. So I've got it set all the way to 10, 10, 10 over here in the settings. I deselected lighting. And again, this is, you can see the difference before and after. Sort of smoothes things out a little bit right there. Okay, so click on OK. So that's just called prepping the image. Once you're happy at the starting point, here's where we start to build this. Now, I don't need the background anymore, so I'm just going to hide that for right now. And I'm going to choose this layer. Now, what I want to do with this selection is I want to convert that to black and white really quick. Now, I'm just going to do Shift Control, the letter U on the keyboard. There'll be Shift Command U on a Mac. I believe, if I can remember right, Edit, no, Image, Adjustment. There we go, Desaturate. So if you prefer doing it that way, you could do it that way right there. Doesn't matter, but just I want to make that a quick black and white. All right, here we go now. The tool that I talked about earlier, Posterize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Image drop-down menu, come down to Adjustment here, and find Posterize, select Posterize. Remember the levels? If I just did 2, it just gives me black and white. This example, you can go with 3. Ooh, I got black, white, and a gray. But if I do 4, I find 4 works the best. Okay. Doesn't mean you have to be. Maybe you want to try this with 3 instead of 4, but I'm going to do 4, which means if we look at this, now I've got black, I've got some white over here, and on the outer edge, it's probably hard to see there, but I have a light gray and I have a dark gray. So that's my breakup of 4 levels right there. I'm going to choose OK to select that. Now that I have that done, I'm going to duplicate this layer 3 times really quick by being on the layer. If you're on a PC, Control J 3 times. So Control J, J, J. And now I let go of the Control key. If you're on a Mac, that should be Command J, 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 and you should get the same thing. So Control versus Command right there. Now I'm going to hide all the layers except the very top one. So we're going to start one at a time with the very top one right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this. So I'm just going to double click and I'm going to call this black. I'm going to go on to this one, double click, and I'm going to call this, I'm just going to abbreviate this, and that is DG. Whoops, I'm sorry about that. Highlight this. DG. Guess what DG stands for? I'm lazy. Dark gray. Over here, select that. I'm going to do LG. No, not the TV set or electronics. It's for light gray. And then this down here, well, I'll type in the word white. Okay, so I've got these 4 layers, black, dark gray right there, light gray right there, and white. Hopefully this is going to make sense now. I'm on the black layer right there. So let me zoom in. Got a lot of black right here. So here's what I'm going to do. Magic wand, come on over. So grab the magic wand tool right here. I'm going to change my default settings because we talked about this earlier. Contiguous, turn it off because when I select the black area, I want it to find any black in the tonal range. And to be on the safe side, I'm dropping down my tolerance to 6 just to be on the safe side. So now if I move the magic wand, say right here, because I know that's black, right? So when I click on that, anywhere it sees black in that tonal range, it's selected that for me. Now I come into layers and I choose this, create a mask. Watch what happens. When I click down on that, this selected everything that is in the black tonal range. Black is the name, right? I'm going to turn that off. Go to the next one. Activate it. DG, what's that? Dark gray. Ooh, I've got dark gray right there. I've got light gray right there. So I'm going to choose the dark gray right there. Click on that. It selects all the dark grays it sees in that image. I grab the mask again, click on that. There it is. So on this layer, if I turn this on and off, we're looking at all the information there that's a dark gray. Now I'm going to turn that off. Now I'm going to go to the next layer and I'm going to activate that. And that is LG. What does that stand for? Light gray. Well, there's some light gray right there. So with the magic wand again, I click on that spot. It grabs all the light grays it sees. I grab the magic wand. I mean, not the magic wand, the mask tool right here in layers. And there, I'm showing you just that area that is the light gray. Turn it off. And the last one, and that is white. Hard to see this maybe on the YouTube. I'm going to zoom in really big because I got to make sure that I select right there that white. So when I click on it, it's grabbing all the white it sees on this image. And then I grab the mask feature again. And there is the white. So hopefully that shows up. So let me just pull back on, well, let me zoom in on that so we can see that. So let me turn that off. So this is all the black area it sees, right? Very top. This is the dark gray I selected. This is the lighter gray. And this is the white. Hopefully that makes sense. Now we are all prepped and ready for our next step. And that is, let's get into those clipping masks. Are we ready? Let's do it. All right, now we're all set to start working with multiple clipping masks. So let's get started right back here in Photoshop where I left off. Let me pull back on this so we can see this window right here. And I'm going to start off by going to the very top layer. I'm going to activate that. So this represents, remember this, black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the File drop-down menu here in the upper left-hand corner, and I come down a little over halfway called Place Embedded. And then I'm going to navigate to the dialog box that has my textures, and guess which one I'm going to choose? Black, right? This is why I got everything organized for myself. So notice there's, again, black, dark gray, light gray, and white. So you can see the variance there. So I'm going to choose the black right there, click on Place, and I'm going to make sure it covers the entire image. So I'm going to move that up. I'm going to hold the Shift key down, grab that right there, just click and drag to resize that, and then again, enter on the keyboard. Now that I have that layer right here, if you know how to do a clipping mask, we've talked about this in the past, you could right mouse click, and somewhere in the menu, it should say create a clipping mask. And that is, let's see where we at. I can never find it. It's there somewhere, probably looking at it. There it goes. Create clipping mask, very bottom. I prefer to do this, and it's not right or wrong. I hover between the two layers right there. And if I hold the Alt key down or Option on a Mac and I hover between the two really slow, you can see it change. And when I move down, it goes back to a hand. So right when it changes, I click down with my index finger on the mouse and I clipped it to, there we go, turn it on and off, the black area only. Now that I have that done, to keep my head organized, I'm going to select that layer, hold the Shift key down, click the layer below, so those two are now selected, Control G, Command G on a Mac to group that, and I'll just call this my black group. And again, just to keep my head straight, so if I ever come back to this, I know where things are at, how they're grouped and put together. Now let's go to the next one. Let's turn this off and go to the next layer, activate that so we can see this, and this represents what? Dark gray. So again, I go to File drop-down menu, choose Place Embedded, find the dark gray texture I want to work with. Now notice it's a little bit, lighter than say the black one there. So I'm going to grab that one, click on Place. And again, you should be able to go to Adobe's website, and there's a lot of free websites out there that you can actually do a search for textures and different overlays, that kind of stuff that you could use. Again, I'm going to just select Enter to select that and do exactly what I did last time. I'm going to hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac, hover between the two layers carefully, let it change to its symbol, click down once with the index finger. I clip that to the area represented by the dark gray. And again, I'm holding the Shift key down because I want to, multi-select those two layers, Control G, Command G on a Mac. You don't have to do this. I like to stay organized, and I'll just call that DG again. That means all my, dark gray is in there. Now let's activate the other layer. So I'm going to turn off this one, activate that one. I'm just repeating the process. LG, what is that? Well, that's light gray. So again, File, drop-down menu, come down to Place Embedded. Where's the light gray one? Right there. That's what I chose to use. Select Place. And again, just make sure I'm covering the image. So I'm going to hold that Shift key down again to stretch it out. Enter on the keyboard. Clip it. Again, hover between the two. So again, this represents the light gray area. Select both layers. Control G, Command G on a Mac. And again, we'll just call this LG for light gray. Now let's deselect that and let's activate the very last one. And this is the white area. And there's very little white in there, but you will have images that will have a lot more, say, white in there. So I'm going to go again back to File drop-down menu, choose again Place Embedded, find the texture I want to use right there for my clipping mask, and that's that white one. And then again, just make sure I'm covering everything. Oops. Well, you know what? It doesn't even matter if I resize it. Enter on the keyboard. I'm just covering that area. It's very abstract. Then hold that Alt key down, Option on a Mac, hover between the two layers right there. Whoops, wrong key, Steve. Right there. Clip it. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see that on the YouTube channel, but there's, when I zoom in, you can see the white areas on and off. How I clip that in there. So we zoom back out. There's the image. There's my white area. Hard to see there. But again, if I activate all the layers, there we go. So that's what I have so far. Now, background, I'm going to choose that layer. I don't want this. I mean, you could, but I don't. I want that turned off. So I'm on that layer. I'm going to go to the File drop-down menu again, and I'm going to choose Place Embedded. And I chose this one, was my decision to make as a background. Click on Place, and it'll drop in. And again, I'm just going to move this up to make sure it's covering the entire background there. Hold the Shift key down, click and drag to stretch that out, enter on the keyboard. Now, here's where you can have fun and start to play. Before I get into the other examples of what we can do here, and that is, you might like this, but you might say, you know what, I want to adjust this background a little bit. So since that's selected, if I go over here, Oreo cookie dipped in milk, let's grab, I don't know, hue and saturation. And over here in properties, I can play with this, the change. You know, it's your artistic interpretation. You might say, hey, let's pull the saturation down a little bit for the background. Maybe I want to lighten it up a bit. Maybe I want to darken it. I mean, again, this is all just creative, you know, artistic interpretation by you. And then you might say, hey, I'm done with that. Or how about this? With that, you know, all this stuff selected there. Let me go back to, you know, I forgot to do this. Select those two. Again, Control G to group that. Just to call this white, just to keep my head straight and keep things organized. What if I went over here to the black area? Say I wasn't happy with the black area. So I'm going to go over there, and I decided, you know what? Let me add hue and saturation there. So I'm going to go over to hue and saturation. Now remember, if I go over here and change the colors, oh, it's affecting everything. And I don't want to do that. I just want to affect this right here, this layer. So I need to clip that. So again, I'm holding the Alt key down, Option on a Mac, hover between the two layers, clip it. Now, when I move the sliders around, see what's happening? Only in the black areas, it's changing. So I might say, you know, I want to move this over here a little bit, or maybe over there. And then maybe I want to pull the saturation up or down, whatever. I want to lighten that area up. I mean, this is all under your control. How about if I did this? I select a layer, Control T, Command T on a Mac. Let me pull back on this. Make it real small. And what if I did this? See what it's doing there? What if I did this and I rotate it? Okay, I want to make sure it's covering everything, so maybe expand that. But again, you could move this stuff around and do some really cool creative things, enter on the keyboard. And then let me just double click on the hand here to pull that up. And there we go. That is our finished project right there. Put your signature in there. Pretty cool stuff. I am having a blast with this. Now, let's take a little break here, Steve, and I'm going to jump into, I think I'm going to show you 3 other projects that I did, and I'm going to zip through it, but I'm going to show you what I did differently when it came to a landscape. Are we ready? Let's get into it. Okay, right now I'm going to show you 3 other projects I did, dissect them, and I'm going to show you what I did differently in the landscape one versus, say, selecting these objects and, you know, copying them up and that. So let's take a look at Photoshop right here. I've got the 3 projects we're going to look at. This is a variation of what I just did here. By the way, if we take a look at this right here, I can turn this on and off. This is just a visible stamp layer. Let me just turn it, actually delete that for right now. I'll show you how to do that if you're not sure how to do that, but let's break this down. I got a different look here. Why? Because I just used solid colors. That's all I was using instead of all these textures. So if you take a look at the black right there, I did this color tone, which is, you know, a darker, say, you know, beige or brown. And so this is happening to the black area right there. And again, over here for the dark gray, I just made it a little bit lighter than the, you know, the black one, that area. So there's the on and off. It's affecting that. And then I made it a little bit lighter for the light gray area. And again, it's just a different tone of that. So you can see that. And then the very last thing there is the white. And again, this is, you know, very light right there as a color, but turn it on and off. You can see that changing. And then what I did was I used, again, another shade of that for the background. And so I just came up with a very smooth looking, you know, image rather than all the texture and grunge stuff and loose stuff. So a different artistic interpretation by doing that right there. Now, if you're not sure about what I did here, I went to the very top of my stack and I did a visible stamp layer which just means I'm going to hold Shift Control Alt and tap on the letter E like in Edward. That would actually be Shift Command Option E, and it takes all the layers it sees, consolidates it, put it in a single layer, and then I just did a multiply blending mode. I do that a lot on all of my projects. It's more of a customized vignette. I added a mask here, grab my paintbrush, beefer brush. It's set at 40%. I'm just clicking and dragging in this area, let go, do it again. And you can see if you're looking at the mask here, what's happening here. And again, it's sort of like a custom vignette. And then I can go over here to properties and say, maybe let's feather this out a bit. So now you can see when I turn it on and off, this is what I get. Okay, so that's this very top layer. And this is all just your creative interpretation, what you want to do. Okay, let's take a look at portraits. Same thing. Broke this up. There's my signature in the lower left-hand corner that I added right there. But again, black, this is the area. Okay, so it's just this is the texture I used right there. And then if we take a look at the dark gray area, this is the dark gray area. And again, different texture right there. And then we take a look at the light gray area. So if I turn that on and off, you can see that. And then again, the white area right there. So if I turn that on and off, you can see the white area. And then this is the background I chose to use. Okay, and then again, I could have did a vignette on that, but I chose not to on that one. The last one, which is a landscape, a little bit different on this one. On the landscape, I did not do a cutout on this. In other words, I didn't select an area and copy it up. I just left it alone. So let me turn this off because, again, this is just that custom vignette. So if I turn that on and off, you can see that. So let's just turn that off. So if I take a look at this, over here, there's no cutout. I just did, turned it to black and white, did the posterize with the number 4, and then selected those different areas. So again, this is representing the black area right there with that particular texture. This one is the dark gray area. By the way, if you're learning anything, if you can do me a favor, and that is like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. Okay, so again, if I turn that on and off, that's the area right there for the dark gray area. And then the light gray area, again, different texture that was used right there with the clipping mask. So again, I'm using multiple clipping masks here based on those selections. And in the white area, again, a different texture right there. So if I turn that on and off, you can see that area right there. And then that is my finished project right there. So when it comes to landscape, or maybe you're doing a lifestyle, you don't want to cut something out. You want to do it this method. Okay. So again, totally up to you on how you approach this. But I just found with landscapes, eliminate the step of cutting something out. Just follow the rest of the steps exactly the same. All right. So again, hopefully you learned something. I'm having a blast with this to a point where I hate to say this. Sometimes I feel like I'm hyperventilating because I'm going, ooh, ah, type of thing. And I got to walk away and come back again. But again, a really cool technique. We're using clipping masks with those tools that we learned. Again, let's try this. Let's get creative. Let's literally think out of the box. Until next time, people, see ya.